It was February of '94, though I don't expect anyone to care about the exact date anymore. To me, though, that winter never left. The cold never left. I can feel it still, in my knees, in the scar tissue across my cheek where the frost bit deeper than the bullets ever did. We were a small unit. No more than 8 of us, sent north for reasons none of us fully understood. Orders came down in the way they always did, through a crackling radio, carried by some officer who had never felt the sting of tundra wind ripping at his eyelids. Reconnaissance, they said. Track unusual movement. That was the wording, unusual movement. Out here, unusual meant anything from smuggling to foreign patrols straying too close. But the way our captain's jaw tightened when he read it aloud, I think he knew it was something else. Something he didn't want to put into words. Gear up, he told us. His voice was steady, the kind of steady that feels forced. We leave in 20. I remember the smell of diesel from the half-frozen trucks, the way the exhaust hung low in the air like dirty fog. My breath steamed out in sharp bursts, and already the hairs in my nose were freezing stiff. The cold wasn't weather out there. It was a living thing, pressing against you, testing you, waiting for one mistake. I shoved my rifle's sling over my shoulder, checked the bolt again, even though I'd already checked it twice. Fingers numb in thick gloves never quite feel like your own. I remember O'Donnell, the youngest in our squad, fumbling with his pack straps and cursing under his breath. "Relax, kid," I told him, clapping his shoulder. "We're just going for a walk in the snow." He gave me a grin, half-hearted, his teeth chattering through it. "Yeah, well, I've had better walks." There was no humor in it, not really. But in the silence before a patrol, even a bad joke feels like a lifeline. The wind had started picking up by the time we moved out. Snow came sideways, stinging the skin that wasn't covered, crawling down the gap between scarf and collar. I could hear the crunch of boots in the powder, the soft jingle of gear straps, and beneath it all the low rasp of my own breathing inside the balaclava. The horizon was a smear of white and gray, no sun, no shadow, just endless space that made you feel like you'd stepped off the edge of the world. The captain kept his compass out, though it was a joke at that point. You can't trust a compass that close to the pole, not with the way the magnetic lines twist. He stared at it like a priest holding a crucifix, as if faith alone would keep it pointing true. After about an hour, the radio cracked with static. I'll never forget the way we all froze at once, half-crouched like the snow itself had ears. "Report, coordinates, repeat." The words were fractured, broken by the storm, but we caught enough. Someone was calling in positions that didn't make sense, miles off where they should have been. The captain pressed the handset to his ear, lips tight. "Say again, over." Silence. Just the hiss of dead air. He clipped the radio back to his vest without a word. That silence. It set something deep in my gut. Something that whispered this wasn't just another cold march. I remember the smell next. Strange how smell works. Sticks with you longer than sound or sight. It was faint at first, but growing the deeper we went. Oily, burnt. Like cordite after a firefight. But old, stale, carried on the wind as if from miles away. "Gunpowder," muttered Ortiz, the squad's machine gunner. He sniffed again, eyes narrowing. "You smell that?" We all did. The captain said nothing. He just motioned for us to keep moving, but slower now, rifles angled out, eyes scanning the nothingness. I tried to keep my mind focused on the basics, one step, then another. Keep the weapon dry. Watch your sector. Don't think about the way the wind sometimes carried what sounded like voices, because that's just the air, just the storm playing tricks. Right, the first real sign came when we stumbled across tracks. They weren't ours. Too fresh, too many. Boots, yes, but heavier than ours, deeper in the snow. And they didn't lead anywhere sensible. Circles, zigzags, doubling back on themselves like whoever made them was lost, or running, or both. The captain crouched, brushing snow from one imprint with a gloved hand. He didn't look back at us when he said low and hard, "Stay sharp." That was it. That was all he gave us. But in the way his shoulders hunched, in the way he kept his rifle a little higher than before, I saw it. He was afraid. By late afternoon, the sky was bleeding into a darker gray, the kind that warns you night is coming fast. In the Arctic, dusk isn't gentle. It drops like a curtain, sudden and heavy. We pitched a temporary camp in the lee of a low ice ridge, barely a dent against the wind. The stove sputtered when we tried to light it. O'Donnell cursed again, breath fogging the air. Finally, Ortiz got it going, and the faint warmth spread like mercy through our gloves. We sat close, our faces orange in the little flame. The captain took out the map, weighed down with a glove so it wouldn't blow away. His finger traced the lines, though the map was useless. No landmarks out here but snow and more snow. "Tomorrow we push north," he said. His voice was steady again, practiced, but his eyes didn't leave the paper. "We'll intercept by nightfall if they keep this pace." "Intercept who, exactly?" I asked before I could stop myself. For a moment, all I heard was the hiss of the stove and the wind clawing at the canvas of the tent. "Unusual movement," he said at last, the same words from the orders. Flat and empty. I wanted to press him, to demand more. But something in his tone told me the truth. He didn't know either. Or if he did, it was worse than anything he could say out loud. That night, lying in my bag with the cold creeping up through the ground beneath me, I listened. The others slept in uneasy shifts, their breathing shallow, restless. The wind howled against the ridge, but beneath it, I swear I heard something else. A thump, like a boot in snow. A faint metallic scrape, like steel dragged across ice. And for a heartbeat, I thought I heard my name whispered out there in the dark. I squeezed my eyes shut, fists clenched inside my gloves, telling myself it was the storm. Just the storm, but deep down, I think I already knew. This patrol wasn't coming back whole. Morning didn't come the way you'd expect. Out there, the sky doesn't brighten so much as it changes shades of gray, like someone adjusting the contrast on a broken television. I opened my eyes to the sound of the wind slamming against the tent and the soft crackle of the stove as it died out. My breath came out in clouds, frozen around the edges of my mask, and I remember thinking that maybe the sun had given up on us too. The captain was already up, boots laced, gear strapped tight. He was brushing frost from the radio, tapping it as though he could shake the static loose. His eyes flicked to me when I stirred, no words. Just that look the kind officers give when they're carrying weight they can't share. We packed up fast. No one wanted to linger. The cold was biting harder than before, the kind that slides under your skin and makes your bones ache like they're splintering. Ortiz kept muttering curses in Spanish, low and fast, his breath fogging the fur around his hood. O'Donnell was quieter than usual, his face pale, lips cracked and bleeding at the corners. We moved out north, following the tracks we'd spotted the day before. And God, those tracks. At first they seemed ordinary. Boot prints. Human. But the longer we followed them, the less sense they made. Some went wide apart, too far for a normal stride, like the person had been leaping. Others doubled back, overlapping in impossible angles. And then there were the drag marks, long gouges in the snow as if something heavy had been pulled alongside. Not equipment, not sleds. The spacing was wrong. I stopped at one point, crouched low, tracing my gloved hand along a print half filled with fresh snow. The edges were sharp, recent. The heel dug deep. But when I measured it with my palm, it was too big. Much too big. At least half again the size of our boots. "Captain," I said, my voice tight. "You seeing this?" He crouched beside me, studying it in silence. For a long moment, the only sound was the whistle of wind threading through our rifles. Then he straightened and said, "Keep moving." Just like that. No explanation, no hesitation. "Keep moving." I wanted to argue, but the words froze in my throat. You don't push back against your CO out there. Not when the cold can kill you faster than bullets. Not when order is the only thing holding you together. Still, I noticed the way his hand hovered closer to his rifle afterward. Hours passed. The storm thickened, a curtain of white that shrank the world to 20 feet in every direction. It was like walking inside a coffin of snow. My legs burned with every step, the pack weighing down harder, and each breath rasped through the balaclava like sandpaper against my lungs. Then the voices started again. At first, just a murmur like someone whispering under their breath. I thought it was Ortiz, maybe praying, but when I glanced at him, his jaw was clenched shut, his eyes locked forward. The whisper came again, threading through the storm, clearer this time. It was my name, Daniels. I froze, boots crunching in place. The squad kept walking, but I couldn't move. My stomach twisted, heat rising under all the layers. It had been my name, not a trick of the wind, not some echo. O'Donnell noticed I'd stopped and turned back, his eyes wide. "You hear it too?" he whispered. I nodded once, slow. The captain barked low, sharp, "Keep moving!" But O'Donnell wouldn't. He spun, scanning the white around us, his rifle trembling in his hands. "There's someone out there! Enough!" The captain's voice cut like a whip. "No one breaks formation. We move now!" We did, but the air had changed. Every one of us felt it. The storm wasn't just storm anymore. It was watching. By mid-afternoon, we reached a break in the ground where the snow had drifted shallow. The tracks were clearer here, like a ledger written across the ice. And what they showed made my stomach lurch. Dozens of prints, all overlapping, all leading in different directions. Some deep enough to suggest running, others dragging like bodies pulled across the crust. But what froze us all was the pattern, concentric circles. Footprints in wide spirals, narrowing inward until they stopped dead in the center. Nothing there. No sign of a camp, no sign of bodies, just nothing. We gathered in the middle, rifles raised, the snow crunching under us like brittle bones. The wind had gone oddly still, muffled, as though the tundra itself was holding its breath. O'Donnell whispered, "What the hell is this?" Nobody answered. Not even the captain. He just stood there, scanning the white horizon with an expression I'd never seen on him before. Not anger, not control, fear. That night we didn't set a stove. Too risky, the captain said. No light, no smoke, just cold rations chewed with frozen jaws. We dug shallow pits in the snow, laid in them like graves, the storm burying us little by little as we tried to sleep. But sleep didn't come. Not really. I kept hearing footsteps just beyond the veil of white. Slow, deliberate, crunch, pause, crunch, pause. Each time I craned my head, there was nothing, just snow whipping sideways. Then came the voices again. Louder this time. Not just whispers, but words I couldn't understand, twisted and garbled by the wind. Some foreign tongue, some cadence older than language itself. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. I rolled onto my side, trying to shake it off, and saw O'Donnell lying on his back, eyes wide open. His lips moved soundlessly, repeating something over and over. I leaned closer. "It's calling me," he mouthed. My blood ran colder than the ice beneath me. I grabbed his shoulder, shook him hard. "Shut up, kid. You hear me? Shut up and close your damn eyes." He blinked, as if waking from a trance, and finally turned away. But I couldn't sleep after that. Not at all. I lay there the whole night, listening to the storm, waiting for the sound of boots to break through again. By dawn, two things were clear. One, the tracks we'd seen yesterday were gone, erased by the snow. And two, O'Donnell wasn't the same anymore. He moved differently, slower, eyes darting like a trapped animal. And every so often his head would jerk as if listening to something none of us could hear. The captain noticed too. He pulled me aside when O'Donnell wasn't looking, voice low. "Keep close to him. If he does anything..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. We set out again, silent, each of us wrapped in our own fear. The tundra stretched on, endless and merciless. And those tracks, those impossible tracks, still etched themselves behind my eyes even after the storm buried them. I don't know when I realized it, maybe hours later, but something about our formation was wrong. We'd been walking single file, the captain at the front, Ortiz behind him, then me, then O'Donnell, then the rest. But when I looked back that time, when I counted, there were too many of us. 9 sets of footprints in the snow. 9, and we were only 8. I didn't say anything about the extra footprints at first. My mouth went dry, tongue heavy as a stone. 8 of us. 8 shadows moving in the whiteout. Yet 9 trails in the snow. I blinked hard, rubbed frost from my lashes, counted again. The number didn't change. I kept glancing back as we trudged forward. Every time my boots sank, I saw them all, 9 impressions behind us, side by side with the storm erasing and rewriting. It made no sense. None of us had fallen out of step. None of us had peeled away. The math was simple, but the snow was telling me otherwise. O'Donnell was muttering again. Just little strings of words, breath fogging around his lips, half swallowed by the storm. His eyes kept darting to the sides, as though expecting something to step out from the white curtain. I edged closer to him, not because I wanted to, but because of the captain's warning. "Hey," I said low, nudging his arm. "Stay with me." Eyes forward. He glanced at me, pupils huge, face pale under the frost. "You don't hear it?" "Hear what?" His mouth twitched, opening like he wanted to explain. Then he shut it, pressing his lips tight as if the words themselves were dangerous. I told myself it was just nerves. The tundra eats your head if you let it. Hours in the whiteout. Nothing to focus on but your own breathing and the sound of boots. Men start imagining things. Shadows, voices, shapes moving in the storm. I told myself that. I clung to it like gospel, but then I heard it too. It came faint at first, carried on a break in the wind. A murmur, low and even, threaded between gusts. Not words I understood, but the rhythm was unmistakable. Like a chant, like something old being repeated in a tongue meant for ice and silence. My stomach knotted, bile bitter in my throat. I forced my eyes straight ahead, forced myself not to look for the source. Because what if I found it? Ortiz cursed again, stopping in his tracks. That's not the wind. The captain spun on him. Keep moving. His voice was iron, but his eyes betrayed him. Wide, flicking, searching. He'd heard it too. We pressed on, the chant following, weaving in and out of the storm. Sometimes it was far off, like a choir buried beneath the ice. Other times it was so close I swore the syllables brushed the back of my neck. By nightfall, my nerves were shot. My hands ached from gripping my rifle too hard, knuckles stiff in frozen gloves. Every snap of ice, every whistle of wind felt like footsteps chasing at our backs. When we finally stopped to make camp, no one said a word. We just moved like ghosts, hollow-eyed, carving another shallow trench into the snow for our bodies. I lay there staring up at the endless gray sky, snowflakes collecting on my lashes, melting and freezing again, my ears strained against the storm. I tried not to hear it. I begged not to hear it, but the voices came back, clearer in the night when the world was otherwise still. Daniels. My name again. This time no mistaking it. A woman's voice, soft and steady, floating just above the howl of the wind. I sat up, heart hammering, breath fogging. My rifle came up without me thinking, barrel sweeping the empty white. Nothing, no one. Ortiz stirred in his trench nearby. You two? He muttered. I almost asked what he meant, but I didn't want the answer. Somewhere down the line, O'Donnell started laughing. Low at first, then louder, echoing sharp and ugly against the storm. His body shook with it, shoulders jerking, teeth chattering in between. Shut him up, the captain snapped. I scrambled over, grabbed O'Donnell's parka, shook him hard. Cut it out, kid. You're scaring the others. But his eyes, Jesus. They were wide and glassy, pupils blown like he was drugged. He stared straight past me, lips moving around words I didn't know. That same rhythm we'd heard on the wind. The captain was there in an instant, ripping O'Donnell's rifle from his hands, tossing it into the snow. He's compromised. Compromised? I barked, my voice cracking. He's just cold, sir. No. The captain's voice was final, cold as the ice under us. He's hearing it. Whatever it is out here, it's gotten in his head. O'Donnell started to weep then, his laughter melting into broken sobs. He clutched at me, fingers clawing into my parka, whispering against my ear. It's not trying to hurt us. It's trying to bring us in. Don't you see? It's been waiting. I shoved him back, my heart galloping. I didn't want to hear any more. The captain's orders were sharp. 2-man watch. No one sleeps unguarded tonight, and so we sat, trading off, eyes fixed on the dark while the storm howled around us. I was paired with Ortiz. He barely spoke, just sat with the M60 across his lap, rocking slightly like a man keeping himself from shattering. Around midnight, the storm shifted. The chant rose again, louder now, overlapping voices that seemed to circle us from all sides. I gripped my rifle until my hands ached, ears straining. Ortiz whispered, "They're closer." "Shut up," I hissed. Though I knew he was right, the snow around us was unbroken, pure white stretching in every direction. No shadows, no movement, just the sound, growing and twisting, curling into words I swore I should understand, though no tongue I'd learned. My skin crawled, my teeth rattled against each other, and then, clear as daylight, I heard O'Donnell's voice join them, not muttering, not mumbling, chanting. I whipped around. He was lying in his trench, eyes shut, lips moving in perfect rhythm with the voices in the storm. The sound rose, filled the night until it wasn't just in my ears, but in my chest, vibrating through my ribs. I couldn't take it. I shouted, "Shut up! Just shut the hell up!" and raised my rifle without meaning to. The captain was there instantly, his hand slamming my barrel down. His face was pale, sweat frozen against his temples. "Not yet," he hissed. Not yet. Those words haunt me still. By dawn, the storm had quieted. The voices ebbed, fading into the gray silence as if they'd never been. But O'Donnell didn't open his eyes. He lay still, breathing shallow, lips raw from moving all night long, and when we counted tracks the next morning, there were still 9. 9. Only this time, some of them led ahead of us. We shouldn't have stopped that night. Every bone in me knew it. The air was too still, the silence too thick. Even the wind seemed to hold back, waiting. But we were exhausted, stumbling, our faces raw from frost and our gear weighed down with more ice than rations. The captain finally raised his hand, signaling halt. None of us argued. Maybe we were too afraid of what might happen if we kept moving forward. We set up the tents, 2 low shapes pressed into the snow like graves waiting to be filled. The fabric snapped in the weak wind, lantern light glowing faintly inside. That glow was the only warmth we had left, the pale, flickering orange that told us we weren't swallowed whole yet. I remember the sound of boots being unlaced, gloves peeled from blistered hands, the faint hiss of the stove when Ortiz tried to coax a flame out of it. I remember the stink of wet wool and sweat trapped in too many layers, the stink of men who'd gone too long without rest. I remember most of all the lanterns, their hiss, their glow, their shadows trembling across the walls of thin canvas. It was O'Donnell who broke the silence first. He sat cross-legged near the stove, arms wrapped tight around his knees, lips cracked and bleeding. His voice was little more than a rasp, but the words carried. They're not outside anymore. The air inside the tent froze colder than the tundra. No one looked at him at first. No one wanted to. The captain finally said, "Quiet, soldier." His voice was clipped, forced calm, but O'Donnell shook his head, eyes darting to the corners where the shadows gathered. "They're in here. I hear them closer now, behind the canvas, inside the canvas." Ortiz cursed under his breath and threw a rag over the stove, killing the tiny flame. The hiss of it dying out was louder than it should have been. Then there was only the lanterns, sputtering, throwing nervous light against our faces. I don't remember who whispered first. Maybe it was me, maybe someone else. But someone said, "What if he's right?" The captain's jaw clenched. He's not, but his eyes betrayed him. They darted too fast, lingered too long on the shadows dancing against the thin fabric. We sat in silence, each of us lost in our own dread. My ears strained at every little sound. The shift of ice outside, the flap of canvas, the faint rasp of someone's breath too close. And then, as though the air itself had been waiting for the right moment, the lantern nearest the captain flickered. Once, twice, then went out. The darkness it left behind swallowed half the tent. "Keep them lit." The captain snapped, his voice a whip. Ortiz lunged for the lantern, shaking it, trying to coax life back into the wick. Nothing. The fuel was still sloshing inside. I could hear it. But the flame refused to return. Another lantern sputtered, dimming to a faint ember. Our shadows stretched longer on the canvas, warped into shapes that didn't belong to us. "Don't let them go out," I muttered, more to myself than anyone else. My hands trembled as I gripped the nearest lamp, trying to steady the flame with my breath. That was when the voices came back, not muffled by the storm this time. Not distant. They were inside with us. They rose up in a chorus, whispering from every corner, threading between us like smoke. Some were low, guttural, others high, almost childlike. The words tangled together, none I could understand. But the rhythm, the same rhythm O'Donnell had been mumbling for days, rolled through the air like a heartbeat. O'Donnell began to laugh again, high and wild, the sound cutting through the whispers. His eyes rolled back, whites shining in the lantern glow. "See? I told you," he croaked. "I told you they were here." Ortiz swore and shoved him down, but O'Donnell didn't fight back. He just kept laughing, tears freezing on his cheeks, his body convulsing with each ragged breath. The captain raised his rifle. "Stop," I shouted, grabbing at his arm. My voice cracked, raw. "He's one of us!" The captain's eyes met mine, wide and bloodshot, sweat frozen in beads along his brow. Not anymore. For a moment, the rifle hovered. My stomach turned, bile rising. But before anything could happen, the last lantern flickered violently. Its glow stretched and warped, shadows whipping across the canvas in shapes that didn't match us. Then it went out. Darkness swallowed everything. A darkness thicker than I'd ever known, pressing against my eyes, smothering, absolute. The whispers rose into a roar. My ears rang, my chest tightened like the air had been sucked out of the tent. Hands, ice cold, too many fingers, brushed against my arms, my face, my rifle. I lashed out, swinging blind, hitting nothing solid. Someone screamed. Ortiz, maybe. The sound was cut short, choked off like a hand had clamped over his throat. Hold formation, the captain bellowed, but his voice cracked under the weight of it. I scrambled for the matches, for anything to bring light back. My fingers fumbled, useless in the gloves, slipping on the tiny box. When I finally struck one, the flare of light burned my eyes. And in that instant, in that thin sliver of orange glow, I saw them. Faces. Pressed against the canvas from outside, pale and stretched, eyes black and wide, mouths moving in perfect unison with the whispers. Not one face, dozens, maybe more. Their outlines bulged the tent inward, straining as though the fabric was the only thing keeping them from pouring inside. The match burned down to my glove, searing skin, and I dropped it. Darkness again, chaos followed. Boots thrashing, canvas tearing, rifles firing blindly. The crack of gunfire was deafening in the enclosed space, muzzle flashes lighting glimpses of men's faces twisted with terror. The smell of cordite filled my nostrils, sharp and choking, mixing with the stink of burning fabric as stray rounds tore into the tent walls. Through it all, O'Donnell laughed. Not the laugh of a man anymore, but something hollow, carried by the chant. I don't know how long it lasted. Seconds, minutes. Time broke apart. All I remember is clawing at the canvas, ripping my way out into the storm. The cold hit me like a hammer, but the open sky was a mercy compared to what had been inside. The others stumbled out behind me. Ortiz, 2 more. The captain came last, dragging O'Donnell by the collar like dead weight. His face was white as bone, his hands shaking. The tent collapsed behind us, lanterns extinguished, stove overturned. The whispers didn't stop. They rose higher, circling in the storm, chasing the breath out of our lungs. The captain dropped O'Donnell in the snow. The kid's lips still moved, his voice rising in perfect rhythm with the storm. The captain raised his pistol. I turned away. The shot cracked through the tundra, swallowed by the wind. When I looked back, O'Donnell lay still. No one spoke. We didn't light another lantern that night. We didn't sleep. We just sat in the dark, rifles clutched tight, eyes on the storm, waiting, because by then, we all knew, light or no light, the voices would find us, and the next time, maybe none of us would crawl back out. People always ask me the same thing when I tell this story, when I let myself tell it. They lean in, faces pale, voices low, and they ask, "How did you make it out?" I never answer right away, because the truth isn't something that sits easy on the tongue. It's not a story of courage or training or luck. It's uglier than that. It's survival, and survival means someone else didn't. The morning after O'Donnell, after the captain pulled the trigger, the tundra was a different place. It wasn't just white and empty anymore. It felt inhabited. Every gust of wind carried whispers. Every shape in the snow might have been a figure crouching just out of sight. We didn't even bother counting our footprints anymore. We knew the number would be wrong. Ortiz wouldn't talk. He just walked with his machine gun hugged to his chest, rocking slightly with each step like a man praying without words. The others, 2 privates whose names I'll leave buried, stumbled behind me, eyes sunken, lips cracked, their faces carved hollow by fear. And the captain, God, the captain looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might break. He never let go of that pistol, not even to eat. We pushed north, though north didn't mean anything anymore. The compass spun lazy circles, and the map was useless, a child's drawing against the endless snow. Still, we moved because stopping meant listening. Stopping meant the whispers would crawl closer, threading into our skulls. By midday, one of the privates collapsed, just crumpled into the snow, his pack dragging him down like an anchor. I rushed to him, tried to haul him back up, but his eyes rolled, unfocused, lips mumbling the same cursed rhythm O'Donnell had whispered before the end. The captain didn't hesitate. He raised the pistol. I threw myself in front of the kid, hands up. "No, he's just cold, sir. He can keep moving." "He's gone," the captain said, voice flat. "If we let him slow us down, we're all gone." His eyes weren't cruel, not then. They were empty, like he'd already made peace with the weight of it. Like the tundra had carved his soul down to frost and steel. The gunshot cracked through the stillness. The private's body jerked once, then lay still, blood blooming into the snow like a dark flower. I stood there, ears ringing, bile burning in my throat, staring at the captain. He holstered the pistol without a word and kept walking. Ortiz followed, his expression unreadable. The last private shuffled after them, head low. I stayed behind a moment longer. My hands shook as I brushed snow over the boy's face, covering him quick, crude, the only burial I could give. Then I shouldered my rifle and trudged on. Because what else could I do? That night we didn't set tents. We huddled in a shallow drift, backs to the wind, eyes open. No one slept. Not even a second. The voices came worse than ever. Not chanting this time, mocking. They mimicked us. My name in Ortiz's voice. Ortiz's curses in the captain's tone. The dead private calling for his mother. O'Donnell's laugh, thin and shrill. I pressed my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't coming from outside. It was inside, threading into the bones of my skull, humming in my teeth. At one point, Ortiz broke. He stood, screaming into the storm, his machine gun rattling fire into the night. Tracers carved red lines across the snow, disappearing into the dark. The sound was deafening, the smell of cordite sharp in my lungs. He fired until the belt ran dry, until the weapon clicked uselessly in his hands. When the silence returned, he dropped to his knees, shoulders shaking. The captain walked over, pressed the muzzle of his pistol to the back of Ortiz's head, and pulled the trigger. Just like that, I couldn't watch anymore. I turned away, staring into the storm, but the sound stuck with me. The wet thump of a body hitting snow, the hiss of steam rising from fresh blood in the cold. Only 3 of us left then. Me, the last private, and the captain. By the next day, the last private was gone, vanished. No blood, no tracks, no body. One minute he was trudging ahead of me, the next. Nothing. The snow stretched empty where he'd been. I called out, voice breaking, searching the white. Nothing, just the whispers. Louder now, gleeful almost, echoing his voice back at me. The captain didn't even stop walking. When I caught up, I grabbed his arm, spun him around. We can't just keep going. We're walking into nothing. Don't you see that? His eyes were wild, red-rimmed, his beard caked with ice. Orders are orders. We move north. There is no north. I shouted, spit freezing on my mask. We're already dead out here, can't you see that? His hand went to the pistol. For a heartbeat, I thought he'd kill me too. Maybe he thought about it, but instead he lowered it. He just kept walking, one step after another. Boots crunching into snow that had no end. I followed, because I didn't know what else to do. That night, the lanterns were long gone, the stove abandoned. The squad reduced to 2 shadows crawling across an empty graveyard. The storm eased, but that was worse somehow. The silence let the whispers come clearer. They weren't even trying to hide anymore. They called us both by name. They told us to stop running. They told us they'd been here before, that other patrols had come, that no one ever left. They said we belonged to them now. I watched the captain sit down in the snow, his pistol resting across his knees. His head drooped, shoulders sagging. He looked so small suddenly, so human. They'll take me either way, he whispered. Might as well be quick. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to say something, but nothing came. He looked at me once, just once, and there was something like pity in his eyes. Then he put the barrel under his chin and pulled the trigger. The crack echoed across the tundra, then was swallowed whole by silence, and I was alone. I don't remember how I made it back. Not clearly. Some of it's a blur, stitched together in fragments. I remember stumbling through the snow, rifle dragging behind me like dead weight. I remember the cold gnawing at my fingers until they turned black, the taste of blood where my lips cracked and froze. I remember the voices following me, softer now, almost gentle. They told me I didn't need to fight anymore. They told me if I just lay down it would stop hurting, and God help me, I almost did. But something, call it instinct, call it stubbornness, kept my legs moving. One foot, then another, again and again, until one day I saw smoke curling against the horizon, an outpost. Real people, real voices. When they dragged me inside, half dead, frostbitten, raving, they asked what happened to my patrol. I told them the truth, every word. They didn't believe me. They wrote exposure, trauma, hallucination on the report. Said the others froze, lost in the storm, and that I was lucky to crawl out alive. But I know better. I can still hear the whispers sometimes. On quiet nights, when the wind slips under the barracks door, when the snow rattles against the windows, I hear them, calling my name. laughing in O'Donnell's voice. And I know one thing with a certainty colder than any winter. I didn't escape the tundra. I just brought it back with me.